Because you're gonna go to 4 firms and see, can you come next week or the following, which is really
We
neat.
need to allow time between the interviews for, people to
Yeah.
get set up and leave the room, and then there's always a couple of things that run over, so
Yeah.
you need like 30 minutes maybe between meetings.
So how difficult is it going to be to get
Yeah.
our committee together?
No, this isn't gonna be easy.
Our busy schedules here.
And then lots of people
It's
disappear
fairly
the
full day.
first week of June.
I think
Day and
it's
a half.
probably a full day or,
Day and a half.
day and a half,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Well, you could do it in a day, or you could do it in 2 half days.
Right.
It's 90 minutes, it's an hour and a half-hour break and an hour, so that's 2.5 hours one afternoon, and then, or morning, and then you could do either the same thing that afternoon, or the same thing a different day.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the reference checks, do we have a list of questions?
Yes.
And that will-
Gordon has.
Gordon has those.
At your pleasure, I'd be happy to distribute
Do you
them.
want to distribute those now? Okay.
That's
And-
for the reference check only.
That's for the reference checks.
And then we have a
only.
question.
Actually, these are both.
And interview, reference checks
Yeah.
and interview questions?
We have both, so we have reference check questions, and since, as long as we do it, so we're calling it across the firms, so you have one for you have one for each firm, then you can wing it, but it's just suggestions.
Yeah.
Then we came up with but it was meant to be, we're as consistent as possible, we don't omit things and go, oh, we should ask that. Then we came up with questions for the architects during the interviews that we proposed we would send to the architects now and ask them to address these questions in their first 15-minute talk about their firm. So they get 15 minutes of their hour to make the presentation. And what we didn't want them to do was talk about, we have offices in Hong Kong and Singapore and London and Paris, and we wanted them to answer these questions and then talk about who's the local staff, who's going to work on it, who's your, how you're going to handle it, what's your expertise with civic centers and police departments in particular, blah, blah, blah. And that's what these are. And we had a long discussion of should we send them prior or not. We came down to yes, we should. We came up with, we tried to make them as generic as possible. We had some specific questions for BMS and HKS. And I think we would add a specific question for LPA or two, which is the two things we highlighted, which is staff seem kind of deep in the firm, and two, you aren't showing any public outreach. What's your experience with that, and how would you do it?
And that's your first question. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I think we already covered that.
That's covered up
The
above.
interview questions.
So then we would bring up the staff level question.
Okay. So it's going to be a busy next couple of weeks, okay?
Should we look at
Do you want to do calendars now and try to figure that out?
I think it'd be very helpful.
Yeah.
I really think Steve's idea of 2 half days would be more productive than going a full day.
I think it'll come down to.
You can do it. I think
Yeah,
it'll
if what you could find, yeah.
So we're going to look at the week of May 20th for the interviews.
I think we said over a 2-week period, starting the week of May 20th, and, if
And
necessary, going.
finishing.
Right, the next week, we've got a day that's, Memorial,
Memorial Day is the
Memorial Day,
27th.
it's a short week.
And council has 2 days that week for a workshop, the 28th and the 30th, all day. So I could do something on the 29th or the 31st.
So do you want to start with, okay,
That
29th is good.
the 29th.
So nothing available during that week of the 20th for you?
Oh, yeah, I can do the 20th. I can do, just pretty much anyone. So I'm good that whole week,
Except for Monday.
except for Monday, right, at 1 o'clock.
Does Wednesday morning work for people?
Wednesday the
22nd?
Yeah.
That'd be good.
What time in the morning though?
Well, I'm good all day until 3 o'clock, so I could do,
I'm limited until about 11 o'clock.
24th.
Fourth Wednesday,
yeah, the 22nd.
We've got planning commission.
What time's that one?
6 o'clock.
PM. Okay.
Could you do
But-
something, you usually go out and do your, you do your homework on that day.
Oh, sometime, I'll get it done.
Maybe you could do it on Tuesday.
So what time would work, what time on that Wednesday works for people?
I'm good anytime.
I prefer the afternoon, but I can change something and do the morning as well.
And I'm limited till 11 o'clock at the earliest, so I'm available after 11.
I just have to be on something at 3, which is a call, which I can walk out the door and jump on. That,
So should we say then 1 o'clock until whatever that is, 3:30?
Now it is 3.
well, if we start at 1, we're finished, maybe we could start at noon, or at 12:30.
And then it would be fine.
If we start at 12:30, it would work,
Mhm.
or noon, is that, just eat before you come?
I think earlier is better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
11:30?
I said earlier is better.
Sure,
Okay.
yeah, I'm good anytime.
11:30 is fine.
11:30, okay, so 11:30, and that would give you the option to maybe get, there's a tiny chance you get a third one in if we had to. Because it's gonna come down to when the firms can come.
Right, exactly.
I think I'd have a problem doing more than 2 that day.
Yeah,
Okay,
I agree with you.
okay, so that 11:30 to 12:30, and then the next one would be 1 to,
So it sounds like,
And now, was it Monday, May 20th out?
Yes, well, I can do it in the morning, but not at 1 o'clock. But if we do it then the next Wednesday, on the 29th, 5, so it would be
It's wide open.
the 22nd, and then the next Wednesday,
So the 29th.
anytime.
Elizabeth, I'm just thinking from when George is trying to set these meetings up, we might want to have the possibility of 3 or 4
Right.
days so that the other team members can assemble their organization.
Okay.
how about Tuesday afternoon, the 21st, is that,
That works for me.
Did you say the conference that day, the 21st?
No, the 21st,
you know,
I'm
I
away.
can't do it. I just, hang on.
I have a problem at noon on that day.
Yeah, that's, yeah. Would we ever do a Friday after, a Thursday afternoon, or the Thursday the 23rd, does that work for people?
I can do that.
I'm out Thursday the 23rd.
Yeah,
That's not a good day for me.
Yeah, it doesn't work for me in the afternoon. Do the morning.
Not all day, I'm out that day.
But you're tied up on the 20th at 1?
Mhm.
For how long?
If-
For 4 hours.
Knocks that out. Unless we did it before, we could do it before, but that'd be starting at like 9.
I could do 8 or
And I
9.
can't,
You
I
can.
can't
No.
do that.
Did we look at the 24th? Did we talk about that day?
I'm
Friday.
fine, but, I have to
It's a
be,
pretty hard
yeah,
day for
I
me.
won't be here, but,
I won't be here either.
that's that Friday Memorial Day weekend, so it might be tough to get
So
here.
27th is out.
Okay.
My son is out.
And did we?
Monday the 27th, have we talked about that?
Tuesday the 28th?
That's Memorial
That's
Day.
Memorial Day.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
And
Tuesday
then
the 28th, I have council workshop all day.
Okay.
And the 30th, right?
And the 30th, but the 29th, I'm
Would
good.
the, how,
Well,
would the
we've got the
30th,
29th.
I'm currently gonna be in Mexico, I'd have to fly back a day early, but is the Thursday the 30th open?
I could do Friday the 31st.
I can't do that day.
And the 30th is out for you?
I've got this council workshop. We're
On the
doing
30th?
team
Oh,
building.
that's the 30th,
Yeah,
okay,
you're
got it.
doing 2 days, 2 full days.
All right.
Right now, it looks like the 22nd and the 29th are the 2 best days so far.
Yeah, except when you're coming back from the.
Well, I can watch the film. We're recording.
Okay.
You got a list of questions, I'm not that worried about
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And maybe it'll only be 1, if we could get,
it.
you
It'll work out.
Start time on the 30th, or the
29th.
29th, rather, excuse me.
20, targeting 11:30 on both the 22nd and 29th is what I think we came
know.
to.
I think that sounds good.
On the 2nd and
22nd.
And if it turns out, I agree, Clive, with your comment about there being value in a third day of flexibility, but we could do 3 interviews on, you have at 3 o'clock on the
We could,
22nd, but on the 29th, we could do
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's some flexibility there if we can't get,
Yeah.
if you only get one on the 22nd.
And just to throw something out, are evening meetings possible?
Not really.
Well, I don't want to be the only one, I just have kids, and it's just, I hate to do that. I'm trying very hard not to do that.
And, yeah,
But I don't want to, if you guys, like I said, there's going to be a video, I'll watch it.
So there's no third date possibility then, is that what we're saying?
well, unless we go into June, we could go the first week of June, June 3rd.
And the agenda packets aren't due out for 10 days prior,
Right.
7 to 10 days prior to the meeting.
And yeah,
So you have that first week of June you can use.
the first week of June we could choose. I've got
Monday afternoon, the 3rd.
Mhm.
Monday afternoon, the 3rd.
That's fine for me.
Yeah, that's a good one for me.
Okay,
What time?
maybe 1 o'clock?
I have a meeting ends at noon, 12:30, so 1 o'clock would be great, yeah.
Okay, so Gordon, that gives you 3, May 22nd, May 29th, and June 3rd.
Okay.
Let's try that.
Good.
Okay, all right. I think that was good work on that. So I'll close this item, and we will then ask for a report from our library ad hoc committee. Phil, do you want to do that?
Okay, I'll give the report.
Okay.
So we met, we arranged for a series of materials to be put together and are available across the street. I don't know if everybody has picked them up, but I know that they're there because I picked mine up. And we scheduled a meeting with the Director of Library Services for the City of Palo Alto, who we meet with on Wednesday morning. So what we decided to do was we needed to meet with some people that had, we wanted to take advantage of the work that the Library Committee for the town of Atherton did through last year. And we wanted to go out and meet with some people who would have thought seriously, in particular, about the issue of what does a 21st century library look like, and how does the advent of electronic media influence a civic discussion about what our new library would look like.
Okay.
So that's basically what we've done.
Okay. I got a phone call from one of our committee members who was up in the Portola Valley Civic Center area, and said, this library up here is really fantastic, we should take a field
Well, the whole
trip."
little complex
The whole-
was cute, yeah.
Of course it is, you know, the Portola Valley complex.
Yeah.
And so, you know, people prior to this committee have done such field trips, and it's very informative. They've gone to the River, police station, they've gone to the Colma police station, and it's very informative to, you know, see what other jurisdictions have done. So I think that that's something that.
Well, can I comment on my thought?
Sure, yes.
I just thought it was aspirational, that most of us have lived in this town a long time. We've driven through here for years and years, and we kind of gotten used to what we see. It's kind of like, you know, your house or the yard behind you or whatever, it's kind of how you're used to seeing it. And the discussion that council has asked us to have is transformative, to think transformatively, to revision what this is. And what my thought was is, I don't know if this would be a subcommittee that would go out and pursue these opportunities and make it available to the whole group of us, and we would notice it and public to come. But it would be lovely to have 2 or 3 or 4 opportunities to go be walked through local civic centers that are well done by city officials, and say, here's what we cared about, here's how the process went, here's how it came out, here's how the public's reacted to it, here's how it's changed our community or not. And because I think part of what we're going to do is be to think beyond what we see here, and that might educate us a little bit for what's possible.
Totally agree. I know that we have a representative from the San Mateo County Library, Tom Horton, So if you wanted to say, you know, is there anyone from the San Mateo County Library System that you would recommend talk to our ad hoc committee, like we're going to the Palo Alto people? Would you like to say something?
I guess it would probably be me. I have upwards of 20 different library projects under my belt, so.
Okay.
I mean, I would be willing to consult, and I have lots of experience.
For me, it was like, I'm sorry, maybe I was in the wrong point of the agenda. It was less the library component and more the whole master plan thing.
Well, no,
Civic
this-
Center.
we're at the library ad
Yeah,
hoc
so,
committee, you
yeah.
know.
So I spoke up at the wrong time.
Right.
Sorry about that.
Oh, we let you.
Well, maybe, I mean, if you might be available, maybe it would be great for you to attend the next subcommittee meeting, because I think we'd love to talk to you.
Sure,
And
and
you could give us some direction that could be very helpful.
And quite honestly, I think what we probably want to do as well is, you know, there's, we could do some research and we can pull together some information about projects in other parts of the country that are truly 21st century libraries.
Mhm.
You know, communities similar to Atherton. I think that we could pull that together.
Mhm.
And, you know, at the committee level, we did a needs assessment. It was an informal initial meeting, just really to get information and to scope out what we wanted to do. And we targeted two things. One was focus on a library for the size of population we're serving, which we recognized is greater than the size of our town, but not the size of our county, certainly.
Mhm.
And we believe that the library committee that met last year did quite a bit of work in that area in particular, so we want to utilize that information. And second, think seriously about, you know, the issue of stacks versus electronics, and at the same time understanding that the library is not just about books. There's a community component to this, and there's certain experiences that occur in that library that we want to be thoughtful about, and that we know that other libraries that have been built, and we specifically talked about Portola Valley and Lafayette, I think, but we're not familiar with all of what there's available, but we know other people have thought about that. So our first sort of outreach point, which we will venture to on Wednesday, is to talk with Palo Alto, because we know they've done quite a bit of thinking about this.
Sure.
Mhm. Okay. Anybody want to make any other comments about this? So do you have another meeting scheduled?
We don't have a meeting scheduled.
Yeah, I think after our Wednesday.
Okay, fine, okay,
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
maybe this would be a good
okay.
point of interjection. When you're talking about future meetings and the subcommittees, one of the challenges that the library town center task force committee had in the past has been transparency in process and such. And although the subcommittees are a subcommittee, non-quorum, not a public meeting of this body, it's very important that you continue to loop in the 4 members of staff that are here so we know what's going on in email communication, meeting dates, things like that are set up. So we're part of that loop and can answer questions. And if we attend, that would be great as well, so we can help participate in those conversations. And then the library committee, as I understand it, met here in the council chambers.
That's correct.
But the master plan committee met at a member of the residence home. And while, you know, that's convenient because it is a non-quorum based committee, it's kind of important to have that transparency continue and meet here if possible. We do have meeting space available for that. And if somebody from the public was to hear about the meeting and want to come in and sit down, they're not secret meetings by any stretch, but they are, you know, non-quorum meetings, so they're not noticed. Just as a opportunity to raise the level of transparency in what's going on.
So as one of the thoughts that I've had about the ad hoc committees is that not only do you meet amongst yourself, but you draw experience from other members of the public, and as you're doing other professionals in the field to get information, but to also try to involve other members of our community to get their ideas about what they perceive the library of the future to be, or how they want to see their town library be. I think at this level, right here and right now, with this subcommittee, ad hoc committee, you have that opportunity at your disposal to really do a lot of good public outreach and get public input about what it is that the residents want to see in here. So it's a lot of work, I know, but to the extent that can be done.
What do you recommend in terms of how to make that happen? I mean, I can imagine I think George's point is good. We can certainly let the staff know when the subcommittee is meeting. And we could let the ATHERTONian give information. It's an ad hoc meeting. People are welcome to join it.
I think that's an excellent idea. What do you think, Rose? Do you think?
Well, that is, I mean, that, as you were saying it, that came to my mind as a good medium to expose, you know, or communicate what we're doing in the meantime, and have it available for anybody who'd be interested. That's no problem.
Do you feel okay about that? You may be the ringleader somehow, you know, kind of herding cats a little bit, but I think the more outreach and the more exposure you can get, the
Well,
better.
one of the things that's really worthwhile reading is this needs assessment that was done in 2009.
I've read it.
And that is really some very interesting reading, because there's a lot of questions that residents, 50% of them, active residents, answered, talking about what the library ought to look like, and it's right there.
And
It's right there.
yeah, and it's, yeah,
That's part of what was distributed.
right.
And I think there's extra copies if anyone else on the committee wants them. They're across the street.
And
It's a big
handwritten
packet.
notation, I mean, it's copies of people's handwritten, description of what they want, which I think is very good to take a look at. Okay.
Can we make a
Yes.
comment? Would it be possible to set a time by which we might get a final recommendation on the size that the ad hoc committee is going to recommend for the library? I'm just thinking in terms of the master planning process. They will need to know that at some point. They don't need to know it up front. If it's 6,000 square feet or 10,000 square feet, it's not going to make a lot of difference to them at the front end. But the further they get into it, they'll need to know that. So is it possible to tell them that by September 1st we'll be able to give you the exact size? Or, you know, what a date?
That's a good date.
September 1st.
Well, it's sort of halfway through their master planning process.
And the range is certainly something that is, you bracket it, it's not a hard and fast number. But
That's gonna drive the traffic study and the parking.
yeah.
Well, the number is 4,700 square
Yeah.
feet roughly in the building over there right now.
And
the
some
need-
of it's not
And the
usable.
needs assessment said 11,001. So somewhere in there is where it is.
Yeah, and then somehow.
I think September 1st feels very doable after Jerry Carlson's request for an early July date.
Yes, right,
That seems unrealistic.
right.
Yeah, that's unrealistic.
And I think that, those sizes is for our police department and for the administration and planning and building, that all has to be massaged into the master planning process also. Yes, sir.
The master plan consultant, I suspect, is going to be working pretty closely with this committee and the library subcommittee on the library issues. So I think that they're going to be well aware of when the need is, that they're going to need a final number based on their timeline for the master plan itself.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we could just put a pin in it and say September 1 is our target date.
So,
That's
subject to evaluation as we get into the consulting process.
I don't know
You're
what
not,
to say it's
yeah,
wrong.
yeah. I think that's, yeah. Okay. Any more comments on the library ad hoc committee and what they're doing? I hope that we can use the social media that we've got set up here and let people know that this is ongoing. So let's go on to item number 5, public outreach process, discussion and recommendation to council. How we're going to, it's kind of segues into our public outreach process. How are we going to
Excuse
do
me,
that? Yes, sir.
just before we move on, given the disclosure of times we're meeting, we have, the ad hoc library committee has scheduled a time of 9 a.m. for an hour walkthrough of the, I'm not exactly sure what she's gonna walk us through, but Palo Alto library system. We're meeting with her at her offices in Palo Alto this Wednesday at 9 a.m. if anybody else on the committee.
We're,
Newell in Palo Alto, like 270 Newell Avenue.
let's see, I have her-
Is this the 15th, this Wednesday?
This Wednesday
this
morning at
Wednesday.
9.
I have to get it, I'll confirm
Yeah,
that.
I'm pretty sure it's like 100 block. It's the main library on Newell.
What,
Or is it Forest? Forest.
No,
I'm thinking of the wrong library.
No, Forest is the little dinky
that's the
library.
little, that's the one in town.
On Forest.
I think I sent it in an email to
You
you.
did.
I didn't put it in my calendar,
a meeting?
so,
It's on Forest.
I'm not
It's on-
it's at her offices. I'm
How
not-
many
Right.
people?
So what is,
I have to look it up.
We have to be careful that the members of our committee do not total more than a quorum. So, but again, there are as many residents that you can, you know, pull together and staff member to go with you as possible. And that's the magic, that's the beauty of the ad hoc committee, so. I will not be attending the Wednesday morning.
Bill, it's 270 Forest Avenue.
Yeah, the public is present, but additional committee members are not.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's the answer.
Okay.
That's it. And it is with Monique Lacombe.
Yeah, we-
Do you know her?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, I think I've seen her. Yeah.
She's good, she's really good.
She sounded
Is she?
good.
And of course, you know, with their recent experience, she has probably seen everything, so she'd be a good person to talk to.
Good. Okay. All right. So maybe you can do a kind of a little announcement and put it through the Athertonians.
I don't think I want too many people to come to that meeting. I want to notice for them the ad hoc subcommittee meeting.
Okay,
So anybody who wants to come to that can come, and
But
I'm
this
gonna
is-
meet with Denise,
yes.
who headed the
Mhm.
library committee, just to help her walk me through the needs assessment and solicit any thoughts she has.
Good.
But I don't, if 10 people showed up, but that
That'd
might
be hard.
Yeah, more than Monique would want.
Okay,
This is just a start, we're just getting in the blocks,
okay.
to see how this goes. Because hopefully she will lead us and say, here's some other people you ought to talk to, here's some other places you ought to go. This is step one, many steps.
Good, okay. All right, are we ready for our item number 5? We've got 30 minutes. Public outreach process, discussion and recommendation to council. So, how are we going to notify our residents and reach out to the residents about our process here? We're noticing these meetings. We're going to choose this consultant, the planning consultant, and part of their plan is the public outreach. So I think
Yeah,
that
we're
that's,
just recommending to council.
right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I have a question along this line.
Mhm.
We are calling ourselves the Community Center Advisory Committee.
Mhm.
And the proposal we have in our civic center. And I think we ought to get that changed to be community center, because that was the idea,
Mhm.
to use some of the words from prior committees to get this all together.
Mhm. So my preference would be to change the name of our committee to Civic Center Advisory Committee rather than community, because I've had people talk to me about saying, oh, are you building a, community center, or are you building a town center, a civic center? So that would be my preference. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree with that community center, to me, implies it's like
A gymnasium.
A hall.
Yeah, right, it's like you take your little kids for day camps.
Yes, right. Does that sound okay?
The council has to make that change, don't they?
I think that the council has to make that change.
The formal name of the committee in resolution 1216 is Community Center Advisory Committee. So if the committee wanted to change it, the council has to formally change it within that resolution.
Well, let's make a recommendation to council that we change our name. And we'll
I would move that we recommend to council to change the name of the committee from the Community Center Advisory Committee to the Civic Center Advisory Committee.
Okay.
I think it makes sense.
Moved and seconded? And all in favor?
Aye.
It's not on our agenda, but
That
I
was
think
part of the outreach.
it's part.
It is, who are we?
That's right.
Well, it's
So-
still a CCAC, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I will, it's probably too late for the May meeting.
Yes.
Always hope. Okay. Is there any other,
Outreach.
any other outreach?
Well, I think when we do, the thing that I had left a voicemail about, and then we talked about
Yes.
briefly, like, would we go visit some civic centers?
Right.
My instinct is the time to do that would be with a consultant.
Mm-hmm.
When we chose somebody, and I think it'd be more meaningful, because they could come with us and listen to our reactions to what we see.
So our goals would be to raise awareness of the need and of the Civic Center, and to present a sample vision of how the master plan and how it all can fit within the property that we have. And also then make it clear that we're going to need community support and financial donations. I mean, that public outreach has got to be there for that. Every step of the way, there's money to build the library, there's some money to seed the project with the building department funds, but the rest of it, the money has to be raised privately. And I think to create a presentation of what it is that we're doing, and then take it out for the public outreach to the local communities when we have something to show them.
But I would include these, if we did site visits, I would notice that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a part of the, that's why I raised it under community, public outreach.
You can't have an out-of-town meeting.
Oh, you can? We can't go out of town as a group?
Not as a formal meeting, no.
Can we go out, but is it a Brown Act violation if we go together?
Yes.
Well, yeah, if
If
you're gonna be
there's
talking
more
about
than
issues of
5,
committee stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
So it has to be an ad hoc committee, is that?
right. If
And
there's
then
more-
you could do a couple, you know, you could do
Right.
one group and then do another group, you know, that sort of thing, but,
That's not a serial meeting?
well, as long as the groups aren't the same. you're-
Oh.
Yeah, we can't talk about it later. What we saw in the other one.
So we can divide it up into a couple of different ad hoc committees.
Yeah, just for visitation of
Right.
the facility, right?
That's too bad.
On the side, when it says recommendation to council, what exactly are we recommending on public outreach? What is the purpose there?
Well, one of the, just to get the conversation going,
Right.
we came up with 3 or 4 questions to ask these consultants that come in
Mhm.
about their experience, because we're kind of anticipating that they'll be a key part of that outreach. So we developed 3 or 4 questions specifically around that. So that maybe is getting into the details,
Mhm.
which maybe wasn't what this agenda item was trying to get to. But it's things like, do we really want to have everybody come to the Jennings Pavilion and sit around with 50 people looking at a presentation from a group of master planners, or is there some new technology that we could be employing that will get this out to a larger group of people? So those are sort of the questions that we want to ask.
Mhm.
And I think my feeling is that until we've had that conversation with these 4 different firms that come in,
Mhm.
we won't really have a really clear idea of what's the best approach, other than just very general, points that we can make to
Mhm.
the town council.
Mhm. Well, it's that using as much social media and technology to disseminate the information in the broadest way possible is key. However, going into the neighborhoods with neighborhood association groups and holding small neighborhood meetings by members of our committee to show the 2 or 3 potential site plan ideas and get feedback from them is really the way it's going to be. And I think that's a lot of work that we have to do, but I think that will have the most effect. And I'm talking about how many neighborhoods we have, you know, the West Atherton, the Lindenwoods, the Victoria Manors, the Lloyd Park, you know, the Central Atherton, you know, maybe 5, 6. And if you can do that, then you've really gone out to the people rather than blasting an invitation and saying, come to a giant meeting at Jennings Pavilion. People won't come. The library committee tried to do that last summer and it didn't work. Well, it was in 2011 they tried. So that's my personal feeling. And it's very old school, but
I think it's kind of a two-tiered thing. I think that obviously the outreach is outlined in a lot of the proposals, and we have to do that with the planning firms. I think that's part of it, but I think we have to take it upon ourselves to do another branch of that, and that's what you're talking about right now. So it's kind of a two-tiered thing. Social media is going to be so key, as well as meeting people face to face and us reaching out to them to make sure, and you already hit it, it's not just up to them to come to meetings. I think we need to take advantage of not just developing a website or having a Facebook page. I don't know how Twitter would come in.